Today, I want to share with you a truly classic book, one that anyone aspiring to be talented, successful, and live a happier life should read. It's a book that has profoundly impacted my own life, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book is considered a quintessential and mandatory training material for Fortune 500 companies in the US. Its author, Stephen Covey, was a revered figure, one of the great thinkers who helped shape the course of American history. Throughout his life, he met at least 30 world leaders and even tutored 4 US presidents. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People completely transformed my way of thinking. Before reading it, I saw countless recommendations for this book online, but I kept postponing it, believing it was just another run-of-the-mill success book. However, about 7 years ago, when I faced significant difficulties and impasses, I finally picked it up. To my surprise, it wasn't just a practical guide. I found it to be a book filled with profound wisdom and countless lessons. Reading this book made me realize that for all things to come into being, they must possess their true nature. For any endeavor to succeed, it must follow its proper course. Everything in this world that desires to grow must cling to its roots, and for us to succeed, we must understand the essence and follow the right path. This essence is the fundamental principle that all things, including ourselves, must adhere to. Exceptional and talented individuals build their lives around specific principles to achieve their life's accomplishments. This book teaches us how to live a principle-centered life based on 7 incredibly effective habits. It is often said that habits are a colossal, unwavering force that can dominate a person's life. However, habits are not innate. In our short lives, how do we cultivate effective habits to stay on the right path? This is the crucial question we need to address. This book has been famous for a long time, but through my interactions, I've noticed that many still haven't read it. Others might have read it long ago and forgotten its core essence, or simply haven't grasped its most profound insights. So, today, I've decided to revisit this book and synthesize its 7 habits once more. Let's begin. First, I'll paint a comprehensive picture of these 7 habits for you to gain a holistic understanding. In essence, the 7 habits are divided into 2 parts. The first 3 habits focus on self-mastery, helping you achieve personal victories. These include 1. Be proactive. 2. Begin with the end in mind asterisk. 3. Put first things first. Practicing these 3 habits helps us transform our mindset, shifting from a dependent personality to an independent and self-reliant one. After achieving personal victories, we move on to 3 habits that are more outwardly focused, fostering public victories. These are 4. Think win-win. 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. 6. Synergize. These 3 habits help us integrate into the community and achieve collective success. This also represents a complete transformation, where we evolve from an independent individual into someone who can collaborate and support others. Many might wonder if being independent and self-reliant isn't better. However, we must understand that a person who is only self-reliant and independent, only solving their own problems, will find it very difficult to reach their full potential. Let me give you a simple example. You'll see many people who are incredibly knowledgeable in their specialized fields during their academic years, but when they enter the professional world, they struggle to advance. This is because they lack the crucial leap from independence to interdependence. Cultivating the first 3 habits to become an independent person is much simpler than making the leap to become someone who can cooperate and collaborate. And finally, the 7th habit is to sharpen the saw asterisk. This means we must continuously renew and develop ourselves in an upward spiral. This is the fundamental content of the 7 effective habits in this book. Transforming fixed mindsets and correcting flawed thinking. You've heard me mention mindset transformation many times, right? Because I believe it's incredibly important. The very purpose of cultivating these 7 habits is to transform your mindset. In the ceaseless rhythm of life, we often feel like we're moving forward, but in reality, we're just treading water, repeating meaningless tasks. And through many life's journeys, we often find ourselves stuck, unable to overcome difficulties, simply because we're living with a fixed mindset. The only way to change this is to transform our thinking. If a person cannot transform their mindset, they will forever be trapped in a repeating cycle. Someone might say they have 10 years of experience, but in truth, they only have 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. We must change our fixed mindset because this type of thinking always harbors a flaw. We tend to focus on things that are changeable. So, what exactly should we use as our core? Many people center their lives around family. When they do anything, their first thought is their family. Others prioritize career, money, personal freedom, or their children. Everyone has different priorities. However, Stephen Covey states that if you keep focusing on these changeable things, you'll find your life gradually drifting off course. A person who puts career first might eventually lose their family. If someone only puts family first, they might sacrifice their own wonderful personal life. And a person who constantly pursues personal independence might lose the power of connection with others. So, what should be our core? What is the unchangeable center that keeps us from going astray? Covey offers an analogy: the relationship between a lighthouse and a ship. A lighthouse never changes. And this immutable lighthouse, in Stephen Covey's view, represents principles. We must center our lives around principles to build our own mental model for perceiving the world. This is an incredibly important insight, I believe, when we read and learn from the author's 7 effective habits. Truly understanding habits. So, what is a habit? Stephen Covey defines a habit as the intersection of 3 things: knowledge, skill, and desire. The point where these 3 elements meet on a circle is what forms a habit. It is truly our habits that determine our lives. For most people, changing a habit is as difficult as launching a rocket into space. When a rocket is launched, the energy consumed in the first 2-3 minutes is greater than the total energy for its next hundreds of thousands of kilometers in orbit. Therefore, the most challenging part of changing a habit is the initial 10 days or the very beginning. If you can just push through those first few days, overcome that initial period, the habit will form and then guide you onto a much easier trajectory. Now, let's explore these 7 habits in more detail. Habit 1: be proactive. In this habit, we must first always hold onto our power to choose. Many of us don't truly understand what it means to be proactive. You might say proactivity is being positive and taking initiative before being told or forced. While this is true from a mental perspective, to truly transform your mindset and form a habit, you must start with a newer concept: the ultimate human freedom to choose. In Viktor Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning *, this ultimate freedom is also mentioned. No matter when, where, or in what circumstances, you always have the power to choose. Typically, we encounter 3 types of determinism that define who we become. 1. Genetic determinism, *, I was born hot-tempered and careless, so I can't change. 2. Psychic determinism, *, I was abused as a child, so it's natural for my personality to be violent and aggressive now. 3. Environmental determinism, *, everyone around me is easily angered, so it's normal for my mood and personality to be affected. All 3 of these deterministic views share one common characteristic: they externalize responsibility. That is, I was stimulated, so I reacted that way. But Stephen Covey believes that a truly proactive person recognizes the significant gap between being stimulated and reacting. That gap is your power to choose. Former First Lady of the U.S., Eleanor Roosevelt, said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. If you don't empower others to hurt you, no one can. It all lies in your choice." But here, I want to ask everyone, do you easily give up your power to choose? I'm sure many of you would say, I definitely wouldn't easily give up my power to choose. Then consider this example. Suppose you are bitten by a poisonous snake. What choice would you make? Would you chase the snake to kill it, or would you leave to seek help for yourself first? I'm sure many of you would say, I would definitely go seek help for myself. But think about it, if similar situations happen in real life, would you truly choose that way? For instance, you're driving courteously on the road, when suddenly a car from behind bumps into yours. Immediately, you feel incredibly angry and rage boils up. You turn around, glare, yell, and some might even chase after the car that just hit them, leading to arguments and even physical altercations. Or another example, in high school, You often complain that a certain teacher is unfair, or their lectures are dull and boring, etc. You have countless reasons not to study that subject seriously. But that's precisely how you relinquish your power of choice to the teacher. Yelling at the person who hit your car or not studying seriously to spite your teacher, these actions are no different from being bitten by a snake and then turning back to chase it. And of course, doing so will only cause you more harm. So remember, life is a result of your choices. Whether you want to or not, don't easily give up your power to make a better choice for yourself. The second thing we need to remember in the first habit is to focus on the circle of influence. In this proactive habit, another important element is understanding your circle of influence and your circle of concern. The circle of influence refers to the things you can change through your efforts and endeavors. The circle of concern refers to the things you can comment on, express opinions about, or be emotionally affected by, but cannot change. What I've observed is that successful people throughout history share one common trait. They only channel their energy into things within their circle of influence. If you are constantly worrying, getting angry, complaining, blaming others, making excuses, or shifting responsibility, it means you are actively expanding your circle of concern. The larger your circle of concern, the smaller your circle of influence becomes. You'll notice that many people in our lives today spend a lot of time consumed by hot news, browsing social media, watching entertainment live streams, checking what's trending, or following various factional disputes. We don't have that much time in our lives, so don't waste your time on things you cannot control or change. Instead, spend time reading books, learning new skills, or acquiring new knowledge that helps you develop intellectually, physically, or spiritually. These efforts will help your circle of influence grow daily. What you need to remember in this first habit is, first, always hold onto your power to choose, and second, focus on doing things that expand your circle of influence. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind asterisk. Stephen Covey tells us that we all face two creations when doing anything. One is mental creation in the mind, and the other is physical creation in real life. This means that if you want to do something, the mental creation, like a leader, first requires you to know where you are going. Then, in the actual execution, adjustments are made to refine your initial purpose. However, many of us often skip the mental creation step, simply working tirelessly day after day like machines. And if your mind lacks creativity, if you don't truly know what you want, then your second creation becomes meaningless. When you don't have a clear end in mind, even if you start, you will gradually drift off course. That's why we must set goals for ourselves, learning to write our life script. But how do we write our life script? Many people divide their lives into stages. Before 18, I focused on college entrance exams. From 18 to 25, I focused on learning and wanted to graduate with honors. From 25 to 40, I wanted to focus on my career and continuously advance. From 40 to 50, I wanted to start my own business and own my own company. After 50, I would start enjoying life. You see, many of us might think this is a wonderful life plan. However, consider this. When you are solely focused on work and your career, your child comes to you and asks, "Dad, can you play with me for a bit?" But you say, "Dad is busy with work right now. I'll play with you tomorrow." But time and again, you miss out on those moments of growing up with your child. Are you neglecting your child because of this? When you're focused on your business, your wife might desperately want to talk to you about something that's been bothering her recently, but you say, "I'm very busy right now, I don't have time. Let's talk about this later." Would your relationship with your wife be the same as it once was? And then, after 50, when you've successfully started a business, own a listed company, and have a lot of money, but your child has grown up and become distant from their parents, and your family's affection is no longer what it used to be. Do you think a life like that can be called successful? Indeed, many of us live this way. They earn money, a lot of money, but they don't hesitate to destroy their own health, because in each segment of their lives, they can only focus on one thing. And regrettably, Stephen Covey said, "Never focus on anything so one-sidedly. Instead, focus on principles, using these 7 effective habits as your core purpose to comprehensively enhance all aspects of your life." So what happens if a person is principle-centered? A principle-centered person will always be confident in their choices. Regardless of the outcome, they will always focus on that, without internal constraints. A principle-centered person will always have extraordinary insight, unique thoughts and actions, and they will always be steadfast in their core inner purpose. Most importantly, it will bring them a high sense of security. You must find your life's principles now. Write down these big goals and write your life's script. This is the second habit Stephen Covey wants to share with us. Additionally, for goal setting, you can refer to the SMART principle, which I've discussed in another video. Habit 3, put first things first. First, I'll tell you about a fascinating yet thought-provoking game from Stephen Covey. He invited a woman and gave her many stones. On each stone was written a word representing a very important part or aspect of life. Then, he asked the woman to put these stones into a bucket. The woman said, "I'll put the small stones in first, then try to fit the large stones in." But no matter how she tried, the bucket filled up and she couldn't fit all of them. In the end, she had to take out a few stones. Seeing this, Covey said, "Oh, the family stone is missing." The woman replied, "I want family. What about vacation? Do you want it?" "I want vacation too." You'll find that whether it's vacation, health, family, or parent-child relationships, you want to put all of them in. But the problem is we can't fit everything. So, what should we do? Then, Stephen Covey put all the large stones in first. After they were in, he poured the small stones along with sand, flattening it, and everything fit perfectly inside. Because the design of this experiment is very subtle. The number of stones is the same, but whether they all fit depends on whether you put the large stones or the small stones in first. You'll find that many people in our lives are constantly occupied by countless, small stones. Every day, we spend a lot of time scrolling on our phones, watching movies, catching up on hot news. Especially the information available online now, so much of it is useless. We are being led by others. They use methods to pressure you, like, if you don't follow the news, you'll fall behind the world, and you won't be able to talk to others. Some people even use reading just to relieve anxiety at a specific moment. Nowadays, most of our time is fragmented and broken. We have no way to set aside large chunks of time to do truly meaningful and important things for ourselves. Therefore, the first thing we need to do is allocate enough time for important things to ensure we are always developing. Stephen Covey divided tasks into 4 categories. Important and urgent. Important and not urgent. Not urgent and important. This is likely a typo in the original text. Should be not important and urgent, or not important and not urgent to complete the 2x2 matrix. Not urgent and not important. Out of these 4 types, the tasks you should prioritize are not the important and urgent ones, but the important and not urgent *** tasks. Remember, dedicating time to important and not urgent tasks, those that require investment of time and persistence, is how you can develop most comprehensively. Habit 4, think win-win. After mastering the first 3 habits, you then take the leap to become someone who can collaborate and support others. This is truly a very difficult leap. In today's society, you see that we cannot live in isolation, independent and unconnected to anyone. Between people, we always need an emotional bank account. If you don't make investments into this emotional bank account, but always want to withdraw from it, you will soon realize that one day you won't be able to withdraw anymore. It's like the emotional bank account between us and our children. Initially, it's very abundant. Before your child is 3 years old, that account can be very full. But after they turn 3, as they gradually grow up, the parent might constantly nag the child, criticize them, scold them. Sometimes, because the child is naughty, disobedient, and mischievous, you might feel very annoyed. Do you notice? At this point, you are continuously withdrawing money until the child enters adolescence, and suddenly you feel that the child no longer wants to talk to you. Some children become withdrawn, some choose to run away from home, and some fall into delinquency, fighting with friends. The reason here is that you have withdrawn too much, and your emotional bank account is empty. Your child no longer wants to be close to you. You also feel that there is always an invisible barrier between you and your child. Neither side can communicate sincerely. I've seen this happen in many families. The emotional bank account is slowly drained dry like this. And not just with children, but with everyone, we also need to know if our emotional bank account has enough funds, if we have invested in time. The way to best protect your emotional bank account is to invest by understanding others. You must be able to pay attention to the small details in relationships, keep your promises, lower your expectations of others, bravely admit your mistakes, and offer unconditional love. These are some basic things that help us invest in our emotional bank account with others. Why do I want to talk about this first? Because before you can be interdependent or support others, you need to know the most basic principle: investing in your emotional bank account. Only then can we move on to practicing the habit of building a win-win mindset. You'll find that many of us, in whatever we do, only want the larger share for ourselves. But in reality, you can still find many mutually beneficial ideas when you cooperate with others. That is, you win, I also win. And it would be wonderful if all of us could together reap the benefits. So, what is the prerequisite for a win-win mindset? It is mutual trust. Your emotional bank account must have enough trust with that person. Trust is incredibly important. But of course, we cannot always achieve such a relationship. That's why Stephen Covey says that if we realize we cannot achieve a mutually beneficial, win-win situation, it's better to choose not to cooperate. At this point, not cooperating is also a win-win outcome, because at least we haven't invested additional costs or wasted more energy from either side. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. For this habit, you must first learn to listen. But we must admit that many of us don't know how to listen. That is, when someone speaks, we immediately react with something we want to say. This is a very interesting data point from communication research. When a person listens to someone speak, typically within 3 seconds, their mind has already started thinking about how they should respond. This is the cause of ineffective communication. The reason we don't know how to listen is because we often respond with an autobiographical reaction. What is an autobiographical reaction? The first manifestation is judging. As soon as someone speaks, you immediately declare your opinion. This is right, this is wrong, you can't do it like that, you have to do it like this, and so on. The second manifestation is probing. As soon as you finish listening to the story, you want to immediately ask, what exactly happened? And then you analyze the deepest causes yourself. The third manifestation is giving advice. We consider ourselves teachers, guiding others with our own personal life experiences. The final manifestation is assuming we are right. We judge others based on our own behaviors and motives. If you exhibit any of these 4 behaviors, it means you still don't know how to truly listen. Let me give you an example situation. A 12th grade student comes home and wants to complain to their father that school is very boring. A friend in class has dropped out and opened a repair shop, earning money right away, and this student believes it's a very good choice. So, let's think about it. What would be the typical reaction of a parent, a father, upon hearing their child complain like this? Normally, a small number of understanding parents might say to their child, "You're still young, you can't see the long term. Knowledge will be more beneficial for you in the future." But in reality, the majority of parents would typically scold, saying, "What do you know? Don't think nonsense, just focus on your studies." Whether it's the minority or the majority of parents, this is still listening through an autobiographical reaction. So, how does effective listening and communication with a child work? We must reflect the other person's emotions during communication. Let's see how effective communication unfolds. First, when the child comes home from school complaining of boredom, the father immediately says, "Oh, are you disappointed with your studies?" "Yes, the knowledge at school, I don't see any use for it." The father immediately responds, "You feel that studying is useless." You see, at this point, the father is not criticizing the child, nor is he immediately cross-examining, but merely restating, following the child's emotions. "Dad, have you seen my friend A in class? Now he's fixing cars so skillfully. That's what's useful, that's how you earn money." The father immediately responds, "You think doing that is the right thing to do." And the father continues to narrate the child's emotions without judgment. I'm sure if you were the father, you would be very impatient. You would want to immediately express your thoughts because you believe your child is still too naive, not yet mature, and needs guidance from someone with more experience. But you need to know that only when you express your opinion will your child argue with you. Once that argument begins, the conversation will go nowhere, and you will not truly understand your child. After the father speaks this way, the child will begin to speak from another perspective. Well, his income is high now, but maybe in a few years he might regret it. At this point, your child is starting to say what you want to hear, but the father should not show excitement at this opinion. Instead, he should continue to say, "You think your friend will regret his decision in the future?" The child will reply, "Definitely. In the future, without an education, it's very difficult to do anything. You can't even find a job or go to college." The father will continue, "That's right, studying is very important." The child will continue, "When I can't even graduate high school, any job is difficult. I can't even find a job or go to college, Dad. I have something I'm very worried about. You won't tell Mom, will you? I don't want Mom to know. Actually, Mom will know about this soon anyway. It's just that today I took a test, and the teacher said my performance was very poor." You see, only at this point does the child open up to their father and clearly state the source of their dissatisfaction, their anxiety over a bad test score. And what did you discover about the father's way of listening and communicating? The father didn't do anything. He merely reflected his child's emotions. This method of communication is truly excellent. I've tried it and found it very useful. That is, you don't judge, don't define the other person, don't rush to guide, and don't offer advice to the other person. When you listen and communicate empathetically, reflecting the other person's emotions, step by step, that person will begin to open up to you, feeling that you respect them. This is a technique for practicing the fifth habit: seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6, Synergize. Here, there's a mindset that helps you achieve synergy. Stephen Covey says that nature itself is the most typical result of synergy. Just like plants, bushes, animals, and microorganisms work together to achieve the best effect. The key to having synergy is creative cooperation. Our creativity must foster synergy. Beyond the win-win mindset, you need to be creative. That is, we must encourage others to create together, to exchange ideas together. And what's important here is that to stimulate that creativity, you must respect differences. When you find someone's opinion conflicting with yours, what do? Apply the Synergize mindset. If you don't agree with my opinion, I want to hear your perspective. This is the first step towards synergy. When you can respect differences, the other person will be willing to connect with you. So, we have covered 6 habits. With these 6 habits, you will transform from an independent person into someone who can be interdependent, someone who can cooperate with others. Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw ***. Finally, the 7th habit is to sharpen the saw, which means we must continuously renew ourselves in an upward spiral. Stephen Covey advises us that we must always renew and develop ourselves in different aspects: intellectual, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. Intellectually, * we can read more books, learn more. Physically, * you need to exercise, maintain your health, and eat healthier. Socially and emotionally, * we need to connect more, especially give more, and regularly invest in your emotional bank account with others. Spiritually, * you need to pursue a higher level of consciousness. You need to have your own philosophy of life, your own set of interpretive methods for viewing the world. This is your value. Therefore, at these 4 levels, you need to continuously learn, update yourself, and develop yourself in an upward spiral. Look at this upward spiral process. It is divided into 3 steps: learn, commit, and do. When you learn something new, find a way to practice it. After a period of practice, persist and make it a habit. When you have learned something new, you continue to practice and persist, you will become stronger and stronger, and thus you will continue to rise higher. These are the 7 habits to help you live a happier and more effective life in all aspects. This book has lived in the hearts of readers for 33 years. I read this book 7 years ago, and 7 years later, when I reread it, I still felt its power and warmth, guiding us towards a better life and success in its true sense. I hope that everyone can become an independent person, always having their own choices and taking responsibility for themselves. I'll also give you a tip to easily remember these 7 effective habits. Remember them with these 4 images. 1. Order matters. * you must develop from the inside out, evolving from an independent person to someone who can be interdependent. You must love yourself first before others can love you. You must become someone who brings value to others before others can bring value to you. 2. Continuous development. Continuously develop yourself in many aspects in an upward spiral. Learn, commit, and persist. 3. Mindset transformation is the root. Mindset transformation is the root of a tree. For a tree to sprout, blossom, and bear fruit, its roots must delve deep. 4. Principle-centered life. We need to live a principle-centered life, not setting any single goal as the sole purpose of life. Otherwise, you will go off course and lose balance in many aspects of your life. These are all the things I wanted to share from this book. I hope today's discussion helps you discover good things, and I also hope this book can inspire you.